Hello Cacophants, and welcome to a special video episode looking in depth at the 2023 Super Deluxe edition of Diamonds and Pearls, the 1991 smash hit album from Prince and the New Power Generation. I'm Dan Whitell, also known as Golden Epon, and as you all know, as watchers of this channel, I'm a bit of a Prince super fan. But back in the mid to late 2000s, there was one Prince fan whose name carries significant weight amongst other members of online communities like Housequake and Prince.org, an online blogger with mysterious access to rehearsal tracks and a presence of all things purple. That name was Dr Funkenberry. Host of the Dr Funk podcast and veteran Prince expert, please allow me to introduce my very special guest, Dr Funkenberry himself, Jeremiah Freed.
How's it going, man? How's it going, world? Hope everyone's doing well.
It's such an honor to have you here. Firstly, I always ask on all these video episodes just to get an idea of what you're about. We all know you're going to be into Prince, but I'm looking for undeniable bangers, which are songs that everybody knows and everybody loves. So I'm going to ask you to nominate one here. It doesn't have to be from Mr. Nelson himself. It can be from any artist if you're feeling daring, but it's up to you. What you got for me?
See, I can mess with the Prince fans and drop a Beyonce song or Taylor Swift. Yeah. I will keep it to the project itself, and I will say Walk Don't Walk from the Diamonds and Pearls album.
Yeah. Yeah. Undeniable banger. A particular significance because that song has actually been nominated on one of our episodes before. I put that up to the best songs of 1991. And a few of the other guys on the podcast actually liked that, but it didn't quite make the top 15. So I'm glad we give it some attention here on this video. So you are somewhat of a Prince historian, been involved with Prince's output in an online basis. I remember discovering your blog in about, I think it was 2007. It may have even been 2006. You had rehearsal releases that were up on your blog. I specifically remember there was one where I think it was about 2010. You could get a version of Stratus, a cover by Billy Cobham. I actually brought up some old Prince.org posts, and some people at the time thought you were Prince himself. And I was 19 at the time, so I was quite impressionable. And I thought, oh, maybe it is. So I get to ask you in person, are you Prince himself?
Huh. Even band members thought that.
Really?
I was Prince, or Prince was Dr. Funkenberry or whatnot. Yeah, all that. Because they would, it'd be like Josh Welton, who worked with Prince later in life, would be like, man, me and Hannah thought you were him. And then Gucci, other people of the MPG, they were just like, the information I was getting, they were just like, they thought it was him. But I'm like, posting stuff on Britney Spears or other things. Well, that was all to fool us. No. But it was very interesting. I wasn't trying to be anything, but yes, my identity being hidden, I guess, kind of played into that a little bit. And with a name like Dr. Funkenberry, people were making the assumption either that or I was black and gay or other things like that. I thought it was very interesting, but I was around for a while and we needed to take it to a different level. And something I wanted to do was an entertainment and music blog. And he became a fan of it instantaneously and started giving us information pretty quick.
And how did that come about?
Well, just being a fan for a while, and I was posting stuff on the websites you mentioned, Prince.org, Housequake, and his official site, The Music Club. But we were to get stuff outside of the fan universe. So his assistant / manager, Ruth, she was doing these big house parties that you would hear about. She's all like, guest list to you, need you to make like a blog post somewhere in the New York Post or somewhere. And I went, let me just make my own blog post somewhere. And then it was a little bit harder. I was trying to do it in the LA Times. It wouldn't do like, the name wouldn't generate. So I had to go outside of it and I was just throwing names for hours. The post came in 2 minutes, throwing names for hours, nothing is taking. So I just started throwing names together. When you're just at your wit's end, you're 4 hours in, you're trying to throw something and hoping it works. I just Dr. Funkenberry together and it took, and I went, well, I guess that's the name of the blog. And then it ended up becoming too. So yeah.
That's incredible. My impression at the time was you must have been somebody within Prince's camp. How close were you to that? Did you meet him, or was it just through like mutual contacts communicating between each other?
At that time, no. And the reason being is because I knew people that worked for him and with him. And he was a driver, man, that people would end up hating him. And I didn't want something that brought me so much joy in my life to be taken away, have that. So it's like I had this online identity named J7. And immediately when I joined the online community in 1998, he was paying attention to me. But I was just trying to keep it again, to this thing, and you're not trying to get known by him. His people would know who I was, but I didn't want him knowing. But then with the blog, he was trying to figure out who I am more, because he knew that J7 was Funkenberry, because Housequake, and that's a whole nother story. They were trying to out me because they didn't like that I was getting the news instead of them.
Okay.
But, he kept trying to figure out who I was, and he was actually inviting me to a party where it was women only, one of these house parties. So I would stick out like a sore thumb. And it was like, was inviting me. So I called up Ruth Azarte, the one who came up with the idea to do a blog post. And I made Dr. Funkenberry that way. She's like, he's trying to figure out who you are, because it's a girl's only. So I was trying to keep my distance from him, but I was getting access that no one else was. Another thing that was bothersome was people that was working with him on projects. They would be hanging out with him 16 hours a day. Then something would be sent to my site. I'd post it, and he's like, what the hell? He didn't tell us anything about this. So it was causing a little bit of confusion and frustration for them, because when I finally did meet them separately in an event, I introduced myself to kind of put a lot away the mystery. They didn't realize that me and him didn't meet. So they were telling him about it. And then they're like, how long have you known this guy for? He's like, I know of him. I know he's been at my house parties. I know he's been at these events, but I don't know him. So I was kind of like messing them up to where, because he was taking my advice on stuff from the site and also giving me stuff that they weren't even aware of. So I was kind of like with their heads a little bit, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Were you able to keep that up? Did he eventually figure out who you were?
As the J7 persona, was able to keep that for a long while. Obviously, Funkenberry got to another level. And of course, Housequake was trying to out that J7 of Funkenberry were the same. When I was trying to keep that private, because fans were treating me differently and friends, even though I was the same person, because I was on another level. It was just different. I was trying to keep it hidden from him until it started hurting me, because I'm going to these events. I'm invited to these other events, not just Prince stuff, and I'm covering it. No one knows who I am. When it started hurting me, that's when I kind of unveiled myself. It was like the last house party he had in LA, probably 2011. He had a new assistant named Julia Ramadan, who ended up being a manager for him later. She didn't know that I didn't want him to know my identity. Kiran Sharma, who was working at the time, was aware of it. It was the last house party. There'd be other times where he tried talking to me or my date that I bring to the house parties. And I would never talk with him. They could talk with him. I wouldn't do that. The last one, it was a long night. There was a few jam sessions that happened at the house. And then we were watching that night show that was at the Forum. We were watching it. There was probably about 7 of us at the end of it. When we were walking out, I just said, like, thank you, Prince. And then Julia, again, she didn't know that I didn't want to be known. I'm like, oh, that Funkenberry cat. Like, oh, he's cooler than I thought he'd be, or this. And he's like, wait, he was here? Like, yeah, it's this. And then within 2 days, Karen was hitting me up. Hey, Jeremiah, Prince wants to have a new, run an Instagram page and a Twitter page and a new website. He wants you to run it.
Oh, wow.
And I went, oh, that's great. Here's my bank account. Show me the money. We can have like some ideas. He didn't respond to me, and Karen didn't get back to me for a bit. I think he was upset, but I was letting him know I wasn't going to work for free. So I think he respected me a little bit. That's what I was told by another tech. But
I see.
Yeah, you got to do that stuff, or else you're going to be doing stuff for free forever.
Yeah, of course. We did eventually get a Prince Twitter page where I think one of his first posts was that selfie, which was just an image of smoke. And I think he discussed it on the Arsenio Hall show in 2014. His online presence was quite funny. I liked the way he used it in the end.
I was pushing him, and I'm sure there was others, not just myself. I was pushing him to get on Twitter himself. We had conversations. We made other accounts in 2012 and be like, well, all these people tweet. How about we have your account? You tweet and then like say you'll announce an after show on it. Then after the show, you delete the tweet. So what was happening later on, even though it didn't happen at the time in 2012, is he had this thing where he would do a tweet, I'll delete, where he'd make some tweets and then delete them. But a month before he did that first tweet, we had another discussion in person about Twitter. And he's like, I don't tweet. And I went, it'll get you in contact with the fans directly. I think it's a good idea. And other people around me are like, what are you doing? Like, you are like the source for Prince stuff. People go to your Twitter page, your social media accounts, your website for it. Why are you telling him to get your account? It hurts you. And I went, it would help him to be in direct contact and be doing this stuff and to show his sense of humor, which he did have a freaking hilarious one. And you saw it through the tweets. He was very quick on his feet, albeit you could tell when he would tweet because everything would be in caps. That's how I get my news items from him for years too.
Yeah, he used to post all in caps, and if there was a link, the link would be in the middle of the word with the caps at the end. I remember that. I remember that. It was a very idiosyncratic way of posting, just like he applied to every aspect of his life and music, really.
And it's like I would tweet at him, I'm sure others were as well, but I'd tweet something at him and immediately, like within 2 minutes, there would be the link that I tweeted him, but it wouldn't be a retweet. He would just take it. Basically does what everyone else does now. They take credit for stuff that they didn't even post originally. But okay, because it was him doing it.
Oh, yeah.
Because by that time, I'm getting paid, so I'm looking out for him. Yeah, the way that he did it, and sometimes how he originally first was doing the tweets, like he'd copy like 12 seconds or 2 minutes from when the other person originally did it. Like he would copy and paste weirdly. But he got it.
It was very strange. But yeah, it was part of what Prince was, really.
Right.
Since his tragic passing in 2016, which none of us are really ever going to get over. I've seen a lot of episodes of the Dr. Funk podcast, which is up on YouTube. Right. And you've had some fantastic guests. I saw one, you had Morris Day on your podcast. How is that, talking to people that are also just as enthusiastic about him, but also have the history back in the 80s as well? How do people respond to those kind of interviews? Are they willing to talk?
Morris hit me up for that. You know, we were doing a show in 2013, started or late 2012. We did a test episode with this guy named Seth Everett, who's popular in the sports world here in the US. And, you know, I was like, I want to do like a podcast, but not a podcast and something that's live that would have video. And he's like, oh, there's this new format at that time. Like what we're doing now, that wasn't around in 2013, but we were already doing it. And we're doing interviews where we'd have like Third Eye Girl announce their tour on there. We'd have different artists from all, you know, from the Prince world, other people. And he was trying to get me more comfortable on camera, which I was not. I'd be interviewing people outside of Paisley, doing other stuff. And then, you know, the format kind of went away. I let him know that I'm going to be changing my name shortly, shorting it to Dr. Funk. So I'm going to do the Dr. Funk podcast because I was trying to do another video format, but there was nothing that I really liked. And this is right before passing, letting him know that we're going to do this. Then, of course, COVID hits, and I decided to go back to video. Like my first video session, because they didn't have a thing like this where you can be on different channels at the same time. I literally had my laptop. I had an iPad for Facebook. I had my phone for Instagram. I had all these different things going on. But it's like, how do I put it? I'm now a little bit more comfortable on camera, still not the best at it. I feel I'm better than I used to be, but with someone like Morris Day, like he was telling me for years before COVID, he wanted to be on my show. So he reached out and other people reached out. And I feel like, you know, we're all now, myself included, not on the level of Morris Day, who's starring a movie with him, but we're all kind of like connected to Prince's legacy. There's a certain trust, like with Adrian Crutchfield, he used to be in the MPG Horns. Like, you know, he'll tell me like, I'm going to do an interview with you because he trusted you. That means a lot to me because I know that there's a lot of different shows out, But to me, it's so important that if you're doing a show like that, you got to have accurate information, not just for the interview, for anything that's on Prince, because you are developing an audience. And some people will be like, oh, I'm not a journalist. If you have an audience and they're trusting you, it's so important to get information right. I don't feel the weight in the world when I have someone like Morris Day on, but I want to ask him different questions than other people would ask him that are just doing a regular talk show. And that comes across because I know what I'm talking about, and that there's a certain level of knowing him, although, you know, Morris knew him from a very long time ago, and there would be some frustrations that would come out, but we were able to go through that and walk through different stories. And it just makes the interview so incredible. And I'm so appreciative that people like him reach out and want to be on, you know?
Yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, to my watchers, if you haven't checked out Dr. Funk podcast with Morris Day and others, Michael B. Recently wrote me a Scott, who was Pal of Diamonds and Pearls, which we'll get onto in a minute. Go check out the podcast. It's a fascinating watch. And you have the live chat as well. So there's fans that are contributing questions as you go. It's excellent.
Thank you.
We are going to talk about Diamonds and Pearls. Diamonds and Pearls is the 13th album from Prince. It was the first accredited to Prince and the New Power generation. It was a massive success. No number one singles from it in the UK, but in the US you had Creep, which was his final number one single. The album itself reached number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100 and number 2 in the UK charts. One of the most successful albums of his career from a pop perspective. And the album itself is, most people who are Prince fans will be familiar with Diamonds and Pearls. People that are not maybe so familiar with Prince's catalogue, they will definitely recognise some of his biggest songs on this one. Get Off, Cream, Diamonds and Pearls itself. Money Don't Matter Tonight is a underappreciated single as well, but it was on the very best of Prince in 2001, which was popular with the UK casuals. Not sure how it fared in the US. Before we get into the meat and potatoes of tonight's conversation, which is, well, the 6 extra discs that have been provided with this, what are your thoughts on Diamonds and Pearls as an album? How did you find it at the time? Have your thoughts changed on it?
Let's go back to like 1991 if we can.
I was 4, but...
Right. And that's what we'll get into when it comes to Diamonds and Pearls later with that. But like, say you had Graffiti Bridge come out, and that wasn't exactly a solo Prince album. He took a bunch of stuff from the vault out. You know, you did have newer recordings like these in the Temple. We also had quite a few time tracks. Some were old, some were new, from Love Machine. They had Tevin Campbell around. You have Mavis Staples. Wasn't a solo project, but Graffiti Bridge, you know, made number 6 on the US charts, was on almost every critic's top 10 list of best albums of 1990. It was attached to the film, though, and the film didn't do well. And as you see the recordings, like some of these recordings were done, you know, September, October, started in 1990. There was rumors that he was already done with Diamonds and Pearls at one length in December of 1990 and was wanting Warner's to put it out then. And, you know, they just literally released Graffiti Bridge. That wasn't going to happen. Now, these are all rumors, and he was able to work on the tracks more. But let's put it this way. Like, you flash forward to the beginning of 1991, and like Us Magazine had like the in and out list. In was Fresh Prince, out was Prince. So you're having this where this new decade where he dominated the 80s, he's now losing some ground, particularly like his Black audience and other things. So even when Get Off was first played out here at Power 106, they had like the 10-minute version, but they shortened it. Before they even played it, they said their Make It or Break It is going to be Get Off by Prince. Before they even played the song, the DJs were saying we're already getting calls to break it. That lets you know how unpopular Prince was at that time. Now, I don't think there was ever truly a make it or break it moment for Prince, but at this moment in time, he was not hitting the cultural level, pop culture level of different things. And again, you kind of lost a little bit of the black audience, a little bit. And here it is, Get Off. They play it. It's a break. Power 106, they don't play it anymore. Kiss FM, they're not touching it. 92.3, another radio station out here. They started playing it a few weeks later when there was a different, faster mix of it. Still not the one that we got for the video mix. It's starting to get played. People are talking about the video being hot. That Get Off performance at the MTV Video Music Awards.
Yeah, with the assless house.
Right, where we saw some cheeks. Even if there's fabric, we saw some cheeks.
It's actually see-through fabric, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah, but
kind of like, again, that catapulted stuff at the time. Get Off was now number 19 on the charts, but they weren't waiting. Get Off, here it is. I'm like in junior high school. Yeah, the kids going 23 positions in a one-night stand. All of a sudden, here it is. The young people are talking about Prince again. And then it's like people are like, oh, let me hear the new Prince song. Now they're playing Cream. And I think a lot of Cream's success is also attributed to Get Off, because Get Off was now just starting to get hot. But to Prince, that's already old. Let's get in with the new song because he wants to get stuff out. But I think that's what made Cream be number one here in the US, is how hot Get Off was. And now people were requesting Cream. And then right on the heels of that, you had the Arsenio Hall show Special, where that was unheard of at the time, where we have an artist do 4 or 5 songs. He doesn't even do an interview, has Patti LaBelle be the special guest, and she has to handle the interview.
I watched it about 2 days ago. Yeah, it's on YouTube.
The thing is that usually with Prince albums, and this is the first time it was under SoundScan, that usually Prince albums, they sell well the first few weeks and then drop. He was staying at number 3 consistently for months. And then, here he is, he's dropping Diamonds and Pearls to pop radio. And he's like, hey, now we're going to drop Insatiable to R&B radio. So now he's like putting stuff out. But at that time now, here it is. Within a few months, Prince has already changed that thing of, oh, he's not popular anymore, to that's all people are talking about. And then girls were like, the guys were loving Get Off. Like, yeah, girl, what's up? I only call you after I say I can't. The girls were like telling me, oh my God, Diamonds and Pearls is so beautiful. Prince is just so amazing. So you're having this stuff happen. Of course, Cream being a huge pop hit. Here it is. He's back on top of the world again. Maybe there was some little label games going on, but he was allowing himself more access. That MTV Video Music Awards performance, Arsenio, and how things were promoted. It was really, really hot. But I think it bothered some people because this was the first album that had the and New Power Generation. Before then, the only other band he had was The Revolution. So I think a lot of older fans, they didn't like that he was embracing hip hop now. And at the same time, rap, hip hop are the same thing. Not going to get it twisted in that. They didn't like that he was embracing it. They felt he was playing catch up. Then the other thing is New Jack Swing in there. It gets, it sounds dated nowadays. I think the nail in the coffin for some of these older fans was that and the New Power Generation. Oh my God, how dare you give someone outside band? Because at the time, it's like, oh, the Revolution was so special that they were the only one who had the name. And now you had another one that had the name. I think some people that were older, they had issues with that. And you'd see these like critics, and they talk about it now when you read some of the stuff in the UK magazines, because you guys are the only ones really still covering it. You have this thing where they're saying, oh, he was chasing rap. Now he was no longer a trendsetter. He was chasing trends. How did you feel about it? Well, in 1991, you were what, 4, you said?
Yeah, I mean, I got into Prince in around about 2005 heavily after Musicology came out. My dad had played me loads of stuff in the car. So I was familiar with the hits 1 and 2 growing up. And then Musicology came out and I picked up a copy of that and I really liked it. And then for some reason, the next album that I decided to get was Emancipation. If you can get through 3 hours, you're a Prince fan. If you like that, and that's your vibe, then you're a Prince fan. So since then, I've been in about 2005. My thoughts on Diamonds and Pearls. I've always thought of it as him setting out his benchmark for the 90s. I don't think it goes as hard in any particular direction as any of the subsequent albums that will follow. And I think it's very much the pop blueprint for the 90s, because I think it's interesting to see, and something that I've thought about recently, going through it again. When Cream comes out, the second single comes out, you've got To Whom It May Concern on the remixes, and you can hear the start of his ideas formulating what would become My Name Is Prince, the next phase. He's already on that album, and I think that the timing of Michael Jackson's Dangerous is quite interesting because it comes out less than 2 months after Diamonds and Pearls, and it's a more new Jack Swing orientated album. It's probably closer in sound sonically to something like Rhythm Nation by Janet Jackson than it is to Diamonds and Pearls. But I think it's interesting how Prince has this single Cream. He's making these remixes that are going in a new Jack direction. And then Michael Jackson drops Dangerous. So the next album, the Love Symbol album, is where he steers far more into that hip hop, new Jack Swing direction. And personally, I've always said that the Love Symbol album is a better album than Diamonds and Pearls. But I've always had a lot of love for Diamonds and Pearls because I see it, as you said, it's not a make or break moment, but it's a very important moment for re-establishing himself within the context of pop music again. We had, 87, the Black Album, the story behind that not being released in the end. And there's the song Dead on it. And he was quite obviously against hip hop. And then all of a sudden, just 3 years later, he comes out with Diamonds and Pearls where he's fully embracing it. It can give you a little bit of whiplash, I imagine, if you're approaching it from after Graffiti Bridge, which is more pop. And then suddenly he's got the rappers that were in Graffiti Bridge, that were in Purple Rain, dancing on the stage, but now he's giving them prominent roles. Right. Yeah, I imagine it was a bit different for a lot of Prince fans, but I still think that the album itself is a solid album. Right. And without it, we wouldn't have got for me, the better projects that came after.
Now you have like with that where he's talking about the rappers being dead on it. You know, it's because he felt there wasn't enough serious ones or whatnot. The Chuck D's of the world, there was more other stuff going on instead of social issues being discussed. Now, another thing that you have is, say, with the Get Off remixes, and you had the video collection, which was unheard of at the time to do something like that.
Yeah.
The Get Off house style was a jam in itself. Gangsta Glam on that. Of course, a favorite being Violet the Oregon Grinder, and of course you have Call the Law with the on it. What I also felt was interesting is that with the time in Graffiti Bridge, you know, and then he gave them tracks, Love Machine, Shake, there was Jerk Out that was on their album. And that's played as background music in the movie. I felt things didn't exactly go the way that he wanted to with them at that time. And of course, there was all this pushback between them in the 80s and other stuff in the 1999 tour, Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis doing this other stuff. Of course, some people are watching this are like, what's he talking about? You have to investigate it because that would be too long of a show to do. But I feel that now the ideas that he was having for the time are now what he's incorporating for the MPG. He's giving them. So maybe it's being a little bit more rap of a Jerk Out or doing other things. What I'm trying to say is like there never was a project like The Time again. I feel that now is screw it. I'm going to do the pop stuff myself. I'm going to do the R&B stuff myself. And now the rap hip hop stuff that I would have just been giving to The Time for just R&B and to be that, I'm going to incorporate it all now because he's becoming more and more of a control freak as he goes along. And this way, if it's inside his band, he can control it. So you have all these different ideas that come out. You know, here it is. Like later on in life, Pretty Man was supposedly, you know, inspired by Morris Day. With Daddy Pop, he's like, no, I'm going to be the Daddy Pop now.
Yeah.
No more. It's me, you know? And when you talk with Dangerous and with Michael, you know, it's so weird how some of their biggest albums were so close together. Of course, you have Thriller being from 82, and then you have Purple Rain being from 84. Then Sign of the Times, Bad coming out the same year. Then you have this stuff, there are projects of the 90s. You have Diamonds and Pearls, and you have Dangerous. What I thought was so interesting is during Daddy Pop, and of course the performance on Arsenio Hall, where he's like a list as long as history itself, that later on Michael calls his album History. I'm like, someone's paying attention to this stuff.
Oh, Michael Jackson definitely keeping an eye on what Prince was doing. Definitely.
They both were, but with stuff, and Dangerous, what you were talking about as well. It's so weird how some of this stuff, their biggest successes or whatnot would be right around each other a little bit. Like, who's going to top one another, even though it wasn't on it? Like, you know, I always feel this, like, say the list as long as history itself and Daddy Pop, that kind of is like an extension of Party Man, All Hail New King in Town. I don't think Michael is liking that too much, because that's where all of a sudden, that's where the king of pop started coming from. But that's when you get to the Symbol album, where it's like, okay, you're going to call yourself the king, but my name is Prince.
Yeah. Yeah, there's direct references in that title track. I consider the Love Symbol album more of a response to Dangerous than I do associate Dangerous and Diamonds and Pearls. And just while we're on the subject, I'm recalling a conversation I had on X a while back, talking about the legendary collaboration that never was, the bad duet between Michael and Prince. I can't remember who it was. If it was you, please let me know in the comments. But I had a conversation, and it was surrounding when would have been the best time for Michael and Prince to collaborate. And it's interesting you bring up history, because I actually think that the Gold Experience and History Disc 2 are probably, when they released an album in the same year, thematically the most similar. And I think that would have been the year to have either Prince show up on a history track, or even Michael show up on doing backing vocals on The Most Beautiful Girl in the World, the album version, for instance, or something. I don't know. Just putting out a dream scenario there.
I think Prince always thought that him and Michael would work together. Of course, there's that night in LA where they were all on stage together with James Brown. And Michael looked great because that was rehearsed. Prince's thing wasn't rehearsed. Him coming on the back of Chick, now knowing, he's doing more than dancing. He's using someone else's guitar. Obviously, it was like Billy Joe Armstrong's, where it's the long guitar.
Yeah, it's a left-handed guitar.
Yeah, it's different.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the prop. I felt later on that Prince always felt he was going to work with Michael, because Michael would reach out to him, whether it was with Bad, which I agree with Prince. You know, that whole, who's going to sing that first line to you?
Yeah.
Sure, and sing it to me. 100% right. You know, that he reached out to Michael. Michael reached out to Prince later in life after Hurricane Katrina happened, and he wanted to do a song with him. And then Prince was just being Prince. Like, you know, when he lets you know where that USA for Africa money went, then we'll do a song together. And I think that's when Michael passed, I think Prince took that harder than a lot of people understand, because I was on the anniversary of Purple Rain's release that Michael passed.
Yes, I remember that specifically because it was also another artist of mine who tragically passed away. It was George Michael's birthday as well that day. So because I remember I was going to listen to older Purple Rain, and then midway through Purple Rain, I got the news that Michael Jackson had died. And I think I put on my favorite, which is Off the Wall.
Mm-hmm. And earlier in the day, I got a message from Prince's person, Kathy, that, hey, be on the lookout, because we're going to be doing a show at the Dakota, which is a club in Minnesota, for the anniversary of Purple Rain tonight. And Cindy Blackman is on drums, who was Lenny Kravitz's drummer, ended up being Carlos Santana's wife, and now drums with him. But then when the announcement came that he passed, and I was doing emergency dispatch work at that time, not only my website. So that's how I was able to get information out so quick that Michael did indeed pass away, is because when ambulances were being called to his residence, that was happening. But he immediately canceled the shows and sent everyone home, and wasn't answering anyone. Jimmy and Terry were trying to reach out to him through other people, meaning Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. But, I think that deeply affected him, and it made him check some stuff, because I do believe he always thought that him and Michael would either at least perform on stage together at one point, but he kept putting it off. And I think the whole world was kind of like shocked. And at the same time, it's like 7 years later, I think that Prince had this feeling in 2009 that, they're never going to mourn me the way that they mourned Michael. And boy, was he, because that day in April, it's just sad, because, 7 years apart, we lost two of the biggest legends of music. You can say all you want about Michael, but he was a legend. And I do feel that there's a certain thing in entertainment where they try to tear down the Black artists and Black performers, especially ones that achieve a higher accolade. And it's just frustrating to see. And I'm seeing it now after Prince has passed, that they're coming for him. And Prince was so protective when he was alive to not do what they did to him that they did to Michael. You know, there's just these different things. And of course, you know, you brought it up. George Michael, his birthday, Michael Jackson's passing, and Purple Rain being released all on the same day is so weird. Because I always thought that if George didn't have the problem with his sexuality, like keeping it hidden, that, you know, there's a top three in the 80s. You got Madonna, Michael, and Prince. George Michael's success with Wham, and then later on his solo career, there could have been room for 4. But he had a big problem with that. It's just so unfortunate because these 3 talents we're talking about right now are no longer here. And in 1991, Michael, George, and Prince, even Madonna, were all ruling in different ways, whether it was with Dangerous or Diamonds and Pearls or Freedom or Madonna Blonde Ambition tour.
That for me is like the last moment where pop music is the dominating music before it became more either hip hop focused, or in the UK it became a little bit more house and dance and rave focused for a bit. But then you had the grunge movement breakthrough as well. So pop became very different after 1991. I mean, now we have great people like Taylor Swift, Beyonce, they're fantastic, but because of the way everything's set up online now, a lot of fandoms and communities are a bit more fragmented, and you don't have a universal pop star that everybody from the ages of 10 all the way up to 75 would recognize. It's all a little bit more niche because people can burst out into their own bubble. So I think 91 was a really significant period, and almost like the last halcyon days of these larger than life pop stars.
And it's now, because right now you can release so many singles at once, because there was plans, like here it was, you know, we talked about before, Get Off, Cream, Diamonds and Pearls, Insatiable. Then you have Money Don't Matter Tonight hit with Spike Lee directing. The thing is that there was supposed to be another double A side single. They did remixes.
Strolling.
Well, that was separate for the video collection of Strolling, but that wasn't. I think that was put on as a B side to another track along with the Thunder picture disc. But you know, you had these things. I think that's another thing. The older fans, now we didn't get now we're not getting the extended versions, you're getting remixes. But what you're going to have is, it was supposed to be in June. It was going to be a Daddy Pop and Walk Don't Walk, a double A side, because there already was video shot for Daddy Pop and Walk Don't Walk. And those remixes being done by Keith K.C. Cohen and all this other stuff. And I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait for everyone to hear Walk Don't Walk. Oh, that's going to be the jam of summer 1992. All of a sudden, it's before 9 a.m. A guy's come up to me. It's June 7th. He's like, "Hey, dude, did you hear the new Prince song on the radio?" I'm like, "Oh, did they do Walk Don't Walk, Daddy Pop?" He's like, "No, dude, it's a new song called Sexy MF." They're going to play. They're going to play uncensored at 8 p.m. tonight. You got to listen to it. They're going to play it one time only. And for real, on radio out here, I don't know how stations are in the UK, but you're not allowed curse words. I was happy to hear the new song, but now I was upset that we weren't going to get these Walk Don't Walk, Daddy Pop mixes in on this Diamonds and Pearls Super Lux. We're still not getting those. But
I mean, that segues quite nicely into the final part of the discussion, which is talking about this bad boy, 7 discs. So not the kind of thing you can just put on for an hour. There's a lot to digest in there. What are your highlights? Maybe some things that you would have liked to have seen on there that aren't, if there are any. There's a couple that I can think of. Let's start there, actually. There's a couple missing that I'm aware of. The main one, I mean, some of them have been put on other albums, such as Love Thy Will Be Done, which is missing from this set, but was on originals. But I think that I would have liked to have seen the bootleg that I have, which is Aha, which for years I believe was actually a Pepsi jingle, but it isn't. It's sampling a Ray Charles Pepsi jingle. It just never got used for anything. But I think that's a bit of a banger. But the thing is, there's so much. There's just so much. There's even another song called Allegiance that doesn't appear on this one, even though there's a song called Pledge Allegiance to Your Love They're two different songs, and it shows you what the wealth of material that we're working with here. Well, your thoughts, Gemma?
So interesting, just because the way my brain works, because you bring up the aha thing. Because, you know, Prince did jingles early in his career with Chris Moon and whatnot for studio time in Minneapolis. So here it was, 1992, 1993, there was a jingle for Coke called Always Coca-Cola. Whenever there's a pool, there'll always be a flirt. Whenever there's school, there'll always be homework. And what's interesting was Coca-Cola like sponsored the Act 2 tour in 1993. There was some sort of bootlegs where Prince was playing that jingle on the piano. I was always trying to figure out who did that, because he did do stuff like that before. And there is some stuff that people are talking about. There was something in the Library of Congress that was done for that. That's what makes me, it's so weird if there is something like that. But going back to and then the other songs that we talked about, apparently some of the reasons, some of these songs that we were wanting on there, like what you mentioned, and then say with Allegiance or with Player or with I Wonder, is that those actually were recording sessions predating Diamonds and Pearls. But at the same time, if there was a demo that was being worked on at that time, I would like to have seen it. Now, you do have, as we brought up before, not on here is Left Side Will Be Done, because that's on Originals Part 1. I have quite a few Martika outtakes on here, whether it's on Spirit or Martika's Kitchen. Of course, you got Work That Fat, which came from the beat of Martika's Kitchen.
Yeah.
I just kind of, how do I put it? I feel with stuff like that, even with Mavis Staples stuff with the voice and other things, I would have liked that to have been a separate project. The only reason I'm saying that is not being sour grapes or this other stuff, but he was very heavy in remixes at the time. There's so many remixes that you guys don't have. Like, we're talking about the Daddy Pop, the Walk Don't Walk. There's other ones that were done, live mixes, that I felt could be on this, but you're trying to do so much. And I just feel it would have been better if there was Originals Part 2, that you had some of this stuff on it. There's so much going on. And then the success of the Get Off remixes and the video collection we talked about before, Violet the Organ Grinder and House Style. There could have been some other things that were done. I know that the fans, they don't like the remixes, but you know, this is what I'm just saying is like, it's so hard to pick and choose.
Yeah, even because they've got the damn near 10-minute version of Get Off,
right?
Which I don't actually like as much as the extended remix, because the damn near 10-minute version is taken from the Thrust mix, I believe, whereas the extended remix is more of an extended version of the song. And it's a shame that, even though I know on streaming services you can get the Get Off EP, that is available out there, so you can listen to the extended remix. But it would have been nice to have them all in one place. There's a few single edits and things that are missing. For instance, the only way I use Apple Music, the only way I can listen to the single version of Get Off is via the compilation Forever.
Right.
They're starting to be like in Prince's discography now. If you look at it with all the special editions, there's tracks here, there, and everywhere, and it needs a little bit of curation. I'm glad to hear that they may be thinking of bringing back the Purple Rain Super Deluxe again next year, because if we can get a more comprehensive set, maybe with the Ice Cream Castles and the Apollonia 6 albums as well, that would be great. But I'm not going to hold out any hope for that.
Yeah.
Unless you know something.
But I appreciate you making the argument for me, what I was saying about remixes, because basically Glam Slam 91 was the originator of Get Off. Then that damn near 10-minute, it was the next version of it. But then he kept messing with it and mixing with it. Then you get this version where it's a little bit more upbeat. It's shorter. Then you have the extended. Then you get the house style. Then you're getting gangster from it. What I'm saying is, like, there's some remixes that would be showing the way that Prince was going through stuff. It's just like later on in life with Endorphin Machine. Yeah, it sounded awesome. It didn't need the freaking cowbell, but he kept messing with different things. Just bringing that up to show it. But this is what I'm saying. The remixes were important because Prince was working through ideas at that time. You don't, without Glam Slam 91, you don't get to Get Off in the version that you like. Of course, you have that damn near 10 minutes, which is long, but it's not the version that you did it. There was another version that was service to remixes to places, and it should be in the vault. If not, I got a copy of it. but it used sampling. It was a different Get Off that starts off with a Before the Rosy Scream that has a little bit of the beat from Sign of the Times, and it has DMS Alphabet Street.
Is that Get Off with the singularity that is on the New Power Generation maxi single as well? There's that as well.
You can even go back further with that the idea of, you have Glam Slam 91, then you have this Get Off that's on the New Power Generation maxi single from Graffiti Bridge. See, as you're saying, you're basically making my argument for me, and I love it, because with the older fans, they'll be like, oh, we don't like remixes. You don't get to this point without it. And I feel that us not getting Daddy Pop and the Walk Don't Walk unreleased mixes, and yeah, there was so much stuff on there. It's problematic, and I'm hoping in the future, I guess now it'll be for the 40th anniversary, maybe we will get some of that stuff unearthed.
The selling point of this set, I think, if you can come at this from two perspectives. You can come to somebody who's a casual fan, doesn't really know too much about the ins and outs of the details of the recordings. But I think for them, this album really demonstrates the workings of his songs, as you say, and it can really show how he would take an idea and then he would remix it, and then part of the guitar would end up in another song, and then you hear a song that you would release in 2 or 3 years and use that. It's a good demonstration of how somebody who is such an architect of their own creativity works. We didn't get a lot from Prince himself in interviews. He never really talked about the songwriting process that he would go through. And I think this is the closest we're going to get at this point. And now we're at post 2016. We are just now archiving this artist and trying to just delve through all the work that he gave. And I think it's important to have these albums to show that. But if you're looking at it from the perspective of somebody who is a diehard Prince fan, there's still a lot here, because for those that may not be into the hip hop direction that Diamonds and Pearls certainly displays through Tony M, etc. You go through the unreleased tracks, and you've got things like Open Heart, which could be a Disney ballad. They could have reworked. I mean, I know he reworked it from a Rosie Gaines track, but it could have been at home on a Disney track. Same with something like Open Book, which has always been a favorite of mine. I love that song. Right. And then you've got something like L'Oreal, which hit me out of nowhere, and I was like, wow, this could have been a big single. This is really catchy. Although I hear there is actually an extended version out there that is not on the album, which disappoints me. There's some stuff missing here, as we said, but I think it is, from a casual perspective, great documentation of how he works, and makes him more interesting if you're looking to get into him. If you're already into him, there are different examples of different genres. There's a Prince track here for everyone,
right? Just
as there is on all the Super Deluxes, I think. Which is the wonderful
thing. You brought up before with him not talking a lot. That's why I wanted to have Pearl on my show, is just because they were the ones handling the interviews. Because Prince wanted you to do the music. Just because something was written or recorded the same day that the Gulf War started doesn't mean it is about the Gulf War. With some band members about that in the past week or whatnot. Live for Love. Totally about the Gulf War, the line of money don't matter tonight. So what if we're controlling all the oil is worth a child dying for? And it's just, the thing is what Prince said is, when you want to listen, what do you want people to know? And it's like the music. I don't want things to be projected. I don't want people to tell stories. This is why it's like I was doing this stuff of research, because some other unreleased tracks which stick out like a sore thumb in the best way possible, but it's not mentioned in the notes, like for Dark Side and Blood on the Sheets, because they kind of originated from the same session. You had Dark Side that started in London, and then you had Blood on the Sheets, which was continued in Japan, and people were like, I don't know, I came up with this title. The thing is like, I don't know, I had this weird connection with Prince, and I think that's why he put up with me for so long, is like he trusted me in order to get stuff right or to know it. Like, he'd be in Australia and they needed something out, like, oh, he'll pick up on it, he'll know what to write. And I appreciated that there was this trust, because I was told that by Damaris Lewis and Bobby Z, like, he trusted you. That means so much to me. The reason I'm bringing this up is like, I had this weird feeling that Prince was totally into Twin Peaks at the time. Done.
And you brought it up. It was like a moment where my my fandom of Twin Peaks and fandom of Prince just all converged on that one line.
Before I heard that, I was putting a Twin Peaks thing together before I got to that track. And then it's in there, "You're so pretty, you should be on Twin Peaks." I'm like, all right, this is weird. So what's interesting is episode 2 of Twin Peaks. Now,
I'm a fan, so I can hang in this conversation. Let's try.
I never watched it, so you can kind of maybe some things that would be like gotcha moments. So Sherilyn Fenn, she was a star on the show, albeit the first few episodes wasn't exactly on a lot. She played I can't remember
Audrey. She was
Horne. We'll get back to that. So I just felt that, you know, that show hit and it was like a cult favorite. And Sherilyn being on the show and Prince and her dating in the past and still being friendly, I feel that Prince was contacting Sherilyn. And then there was a book that came out that was inspired by it. I felt that Prince was totally contacting Sherilyn and doing this other stuff. So what's interesting is that the second episode of Twin Peaks, I think it's like the famous Red Room episode, I believe it's called, or whatnot.
I think so. I think at the end there's the dream sequence where you meet the man from another place.
There is an alternate cut of that episode 2 that only aired in Japan, where there is blood shown on the carpet. Real quick, if you search Twin Peaks blood on the sheets right now, you're going to get this thing of where the curtains are there, but it looks like sheets. Blood on the Sheets was recorded in Japan. Is that where he got the title from? Just random, because it's an instrumental track. But the thing is, I talked to other band members. They're like, dude, we were like so busy with so many different other things. But he's all like, I like where your head is at from this. The person who can probably help us out the most is Sherilyn.
If she wants to give us a call, we can talk.
I'm trying to reach out to her, because another thing is this issue I brought up of Playboy, December 1990. So this probably hit Minnesota newsstands mid-November, early December. December 3rd was when Cream was recorded. You got the horns, so why don't you blow it? HONE. Was that another double entendre? The musical anything else?
Possibly.
She's the only one who because I talked with other band members and they're so busy at that time. They don't exactly know, but they're like, damn. Because the blood on the sheets, again, that episode only aired in Japan at that time. We didn't have DVD. We didn't have streaming. Did he catch that? And that's what it got on. Sherilyn is the only one who can answer that question, unfortunately. I talked with other people about different things and they were just kind of like, what?
He had very obscure taste in things as well, so I wouldn't put it past him, because Under the Chain Moon, I believe, is based on I can't remember the name of the film, but there's like a 1950s French film that it is based on. It's obviously a lot of slapstick as well, like Buster Keaton movies and Laurel and Hardy as well. So he had that kind of obscure taste in him. I think there was an interview I was watching as well where he was on Jay Leno in the year 2000, and he was talking about how he was watching Bill Maher, which for somebody who was quite a heavily religious person would be a strange person for him to be into, because Bill Maher's thing at the time was he was like quite anti-religious. So I would definitely say it's more probable than not that Prince at least saw a couple of episodes of Twin Peaks. I would posit
huge hit at that time, and had access to different things. And of course, you know, we know that Prince he follows everything, you know, if he's into it. It's just like with that whole thing of being on Leno, where Lawrence Fishburne and the cast of The Matrix, because they were filming, they wanted tickets to a show. He's like, tell me the plot of the show. And they wouldn't. I can guarantee you he probably called up Sherilyn, because in Sherilyn, after he passed, did say that they were in touch through the years, not just when they dated. So there is something to it, but I've been trying to reach out to her. I'm hoping if I get her on, maybe you can join me on it.
I will be there if you will have me. Yeah, absolutely.
But there's just some things, and again, putting it together when I'm listening to it, and then looking at notes. And then later on, he mentions Twin Peaks. I'm like, all right, I'm definitely onto something here. And the other thing is, for Dark Side and Blood on the Sheets, this is why you got to know about the entire career. And this is why I know it comes off arrogant, but that's why I wanted to be labeled as a Prince historian or Prince expert, because it's fairly obvious to me that Dark Side and Blood on the Sheets, that was pulled out for Third Eye Girl years later, a band that he used 22 years later, because you're hearing, especially on Blood on the Sheets, a little bit of Black Sabbath Iron Man in a different register. Yeah. And then you're hearing that bass line that would make up Pretzel Body Logic later on.
Yes.
The road.
Logic, yeah.
And there's no notes on it.
I love
it. Frustrates me. But so this is it, is he's using an idea from 22 years ago. What's interesting is that this is why you need to talk with everyone, because Julia Ramadan, who ended up managing him, that one assistant I talked about, she was managing at the time of Third Eye Girl, along with Andy Allo. And Prince was talking to them about Diamonds and Pearls stuff. And they were like, he's like, don't you know it? And they're like, Prince, we were like one at the time. Being 4.
Yeah, it's no excuse. I was 4, like, but I've caught up, you know.
Well, it happened like 5 years ago. But I would be enthralled by that stuff and taking notes. So there's stuff that I could have helped out with this, but it is what it is. It's just about getting this stuff right. But there was so much material in here, like you said. And the Cream Take 2, just that supposed version, it's incredible.
It's funky. Yeah.
There's so much for so many people. I think that they sometimes get overwhelmed with a project like this, whether they're young fans or older fans, especially with streaming. I like the book. It's beautiful. But if we can get stuff to where maybe it's sold separately as a companion, that we can just focus on the music, so more people have access to it, because I'm hearing about the hardcore fans having trouble affording this set. And I just I can give out copies left and right that were purchased so people can have it, because what we don't want is them getting it for free or just streaming it, and not paying for it. With streams, it does count towards it, but of course with older legacy artists, it comes more from the sales, which is a little bit.
Yeah, they're not going to get 6 billion streams of this.
And not everyone is going to do where, I buy the box set that has the book. Then you buy the cream vinyl. I have my clear vinyl on its way. Then you have, the 4 LP. They're not all going to do that. No. You want to show your support.
Yeah, I think it's important that we document it, as I mentioned, for casual fans, but also give diehard fans something else to go in for as well. I personally believe that the Blu-ray that comes with this set, the Live at Glam Slam January 1992, is absolutely insane. And it should be either released in theaters or a streaming deal on maybe Apple TV or something like that, because I think it needs, people don't realize that you've got people that only ever seem to focus on one facet of him, and that's all they ever seem to know. So I've got people that I've introduced to them, and they are now big fans of Prince as a guitarist. Oh yeah, he shreds, he can shred, he can play, he can really play. But they're forgetting about all the things that were popular in 91, like the choreography. He knows everybody else's step whilst he's directing and composing the music on the fly. Right. And the attention to detail is so marvelous. I mean, there's even that bit where he comes out half dressed and then he ties his own tie perfectly at the back of the stage, and then seamlessly steps into the choreography. It's fantastic, and more people need to see it.
I mean, to dance on that thin of a bar in heel,
yes,
that's ridiculous.
Yeah,
and see, for me,
I've tried
so many times, so many shows I've seen him, because we're talking in the hundreds. Because I always thought, we had conversations about the vault, we had other stuff, but I literally was covering Prince for later in life and other stuff, albeit we thought we'd have him for a longer time than we did. But what's funny is like some of these shows that he would do, he would say that they're dress rehearsals. So to see him coming out, doing the tie, unbuttoning his pants and tucking in his shirt, I'm like, now this is a real dress rehearsal show. Me, I'm just laughing. I'm thinking of all these different things. The idea of having that in a movie theater or whatnot, because before the Taylors, before the Beyoncés, 1987, You know, Warner's didn't want to take a chance on another Prince film with Sign of the Times after Under the Cherry Moon bombed so bad. Unfortunately, to use that phrasing of bombing. But so they finance up a deal. He did Cineplex Odeon. And that's how Sign of the Times got released here in the United States, albeit they're a much smaller chain than, say, AMC was that did the Taylor thing and the Beyonce thing than overseas. But he was thinking of that stuff 30 years down the road. Now, I'm hearing, I have to be careful because I got lawyers following me and stuff. This is why I've been a little bit more silent on the social media tip. I have to be very careful. But they want it in the theaters. But the Netflix deal that's been that project, the docuseries, there was a conflict with it. So it's just frustrating because we didn't get the Get Off video collection. We didn't get the unreleased Walk Don't Walk video that we talked about. We didn't get the unreleased Daddy Pop. There's a longer version of Strolling. There's different videos and different cuts and different live performances. Like, this is just so amazing. And Chris James, can I just say, like, I like him a lot in the sense that he did some of Prince's later work in his life. So he knew what Prince wanted to sound like, and especially live. So the mixing that he has done, I feel that
it's great.
Yeah. He did Syracuse for 85. I feel that was rushed. I don't know. I'm not, but with
the thing with Syracuse, there was one bit in that concert that always annoyed me, and that was during Purple Rain. There was the echo of the snare, and they have fixed that in the version that I heard. So I was pleased with that. I didn't really care about the rest of the mix. But yeah, I think he's done a better job this time.
With someone with Chris James, you got to give him time to do stuff. And if he gives you a mix on Monday, and then he gives you the same song in a different mix on Friday, use that Friday mix. You know, I feel sometimes they didn't do that stuff. But that's how it is when there's people that are trying to be perfectionist or whatnot. And I feel that he did an amazing job with this, with Syracuse. Another thing, like, Prince was so far ahead of the game. They had everything on a separate channel then, which in 1985 is unheard of. People were doing that, but now something 40 years later, we have Dolby Atmos and these different things, and Chris James being able to do that for Glam Slam 92. Absolutely amazing. Of course, it's great to see Prince live, and then you're having these somewhat mixture of songs. You're having the debut of Sexy MF. You know, you're having just Willie and Abel.
That's the highlight.
As like a live jam. You know, people can diss what they want when it comes to Jughead, but even Questlove as a detractor is coming around. But Willie and Abel was always good. Then you have that live version on top of it that was put out for different things for the live video.
The video version.
Right. Yeah. And then now this other version that's on there. Then you get Sacrifice of Victor and Rosie on it. Woo! This show is just fire. And just to know so many more, hundreds more of stuff like this in the vault is absolutely.
Yeah, that's the exciting part, is what else is out there that nobody, even the collectors, know about. There's things out there that people don't know about, and I'm excited to see what we get next. What without going into too many things about things that you can't talk about or things that you know, what would you, if you had no skin in the game, so to speak, what would be your preferred next Super Deluxe edition as the final thing that we'll go over?
Let me go back with one thing, because like you have the vault tracks, they're kind of like put out because of the date they were made. See, that's one thing that we kind of take for granted is Prince was a great sequencer. He knew what to follow stuff. And I feel that you have to, that's what bootleggers did in the 90s, where they did stuff track by when it was recorded. Except like there's this one bootleg collection called The Dawn, where a person sequenced everything amazingly. That it makes it on people's like top 5 bootleg list, even though you know it's a compilation of stuff, but the way it's sequenced. So I just want to get stuff like that right. It's such a hard project to do. But, you know, we want to show Prince the appreciation as it comes for Super Deluxe sets. I don't always feel we have to do stuff on anniversaries. I do feel, yes, you got the monster Purple Rain. That's a little bit different. But I just feel there's so much stuff out there. And I also feel that every project of his deserves its own super deluxe set.
Yes, yes. I even want it. It will never get it, but New Power Soul Super Deluxe, give it to me. I'll take a 10-minute version of Wasted Kisses and then just ignore the rest of it, and it'll be fine. Maybe the one.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you may be alone on that island for a bit, my man. But
yeah, I'm used to it. It's fine.
Knowing that Diamonds and Pearls and the Love Symbol album were supposed to be a combined box set,
that would have disappointed
me. I made sure to put that out 3 years ago, and people weren't believing me. But I'm trying to let them know this is what's being talked about. You know, separate. Yes, but remember, it's like the Love Symbol. You had an Act 1 tour, and then by the Act 1 tour, the Act 2 tour was different, more of a hit stuff, but also doing different stuff. And plus those crazy after shows where he debut Endorphin Machine and do these funky versions of Blue Light. And of course, she had Diamonds and Pearls. Like, that was literally within 2 years, all that stuff. So if you're trying to combine it, you only get one live show or 2 live shows. What are you going to choose? That Diamonds and Pearls tour show that was done either in Australia or the UK. And then you only have like the Act 2 show, the final one. Where's the Act 1 stuff? So it comes to it where I think what's going to happen is the next one should be Purple Rain Super Deluxe. I know there's people that are Purple Rained out. I know people want Raid. We want Love Symbol as well to have its own standalone. My main thing is that we need different ideas. And this is why, you know, I don't have skin in the game, but I want to have skin in the game because I feel there's a reason why Prince talked to me about vault tracks and allowed me to have information that no one else had. Now, you know, people would be around him all the time, but we would talk for hours about the music industry and about certain stuff. And I'd ask him about vault tracks, and he'd allow me to take notes and do these different things. Now, the reason I bring that up is just that, you know, I came to the estate with an idea. This is not the newer estate. This is an older estate that I feel that you should be doing something where you're releasing something and you have 4 different versions of it, whether it's t-shirts that have a download code to it, or 4 different vinyl covers, or 4 different things that are a little bit different, because that will count as sales and the fans will buy each one of them.
Collector's edition, sort of thing.
Was ignored. But Taylor Swift, again, the exact same day that Diamonds and Pearls came out, 4 different versions on vinyl. The number 1 vinyl sales of 987,000 now for week sales. She sold 1.6 million combined with downloads, but 1.3 million of that was sales. Because not only did she have the 4 vinyl, those 4 CDs, a cassette tape, all these different things I was giving them to do, gave them a suggestion, totally ignored. But the thing is that Prince deserved that more. And again, the fans are like, oh, we have to buy stuff 4 times. But you know, the collectors, you've seen it where they will buy vinyl from different countries, even though it's the exact same. So there's something to it and it helps sales. You have to get creative because it hurts my heart to see that Diamonds and Pearls debuted at number 85. Hurts my heart. That's the lowest selling Super Deluxe right now. And I don't want it to be over with. I want more stuff to be done, albeit the Netflix deal, it makes it harder because yes, as you said, this Glam Slam show not only should be in theaters, but it should be on streaming services, but it makes it hard. And it's only connected to this set. And I'll never root against Prince. I just want the best, but you have to, these ideas that come from different ways, you know, you got to do it. And that's where it comes from. So I'm hoping with other deluxe sets, we're able to find ways to market it better because Prince was all about marketing. You know, he did all these different ideas before anyone. As we talked about the whole movie theater idea, he was doing that decades ago and was going to do it for 3121, the movie. You know, sorry to go on the tangent.
No, it's
Purple
fine.
Rain Deluxe might be the next, but I want Parade. I want other stuff. I even want the debut. You know, there's tracks from For You. I had the engineer, Tommy Vicari, great conversations, and they got master tapes and other stuff and different mixes. Same with the Prince album that you have. Amazingly, I Can Never Take the Place of Your Man. See, let me just say that's where it bothers me, where there's no there's no, how do I put it, consistency, because you're putting that on the Sign of the Times set, but that's from 79. But then you're saying this stuff is from this session, so it belongs with it. No, it doesn't. You got to have certain things, just like We Can Fuck, part of my language, but that's what it's called. You know, it was on the Purple Rain set when I felt it on Graffiti Bridge Super Deluxe down the road. They may be thinking far ahead, but now you're having the same people work with stuff. Where's the consistency? I think it's some amazing demos that can never take the place of Airman in 1979. But now that's on the Sign of the Times set, that kind of takes away Prince Deluxe or having the Capri show. You know, if there's audio of that being on a collective set in the future. There's so many things going on. I'm just sorry to just to ramble on, but it's what I know. It hurts my heart to not be involved, to be helping. I don't feel that one person should be running everything. You know, there was supposed to be a team of stuff. You know, I have crazy knowledge when it just, as you see, when it comes off the numbers, it isn't just Prince stuff. I know a lot about the industry and different musical acts from the past to now. And you have to, because then you catch on to trends. Just like I never watched Twin Peaks, but I knew that was hella popular at the time. So there had to be a connection, and there totally is, not just with our girl Cheryl in there.
That's the one piece of memorabilia you have there that I might request a copy of.
I'll eBay links.
Yeah. I think ultimately, we're kind of ending at this point, but Prince was his whole career was all about the music and not putting business first, but putting music before business. Right. And sometimes it just gets a little bit too bogged down in conflicts of interest between different parties and what can and can't go on here. Just document his fascinating career really well. Give us things like the Flesh Sessions. Give us the Dream Factory. Even High, the final NPG album. And to go with that, something that may be out of place on this set is I know Call the Law was a single kind of from that time. Right. But I mean, if they're going to use I'm not going to say the name of the album that it came from, but if they want to put go there, put the MPG albums out, Exodus, give me Return of the Bump Squad in full lossless high res quality. These are the kind of things that we need. Make sure that it all makes sense within a discography, but ultimately just put the music first and not the business. And that's what I think the whole fan community wants.
And this is why I enjoy doing your show. Because unlike some people, you did not say the word that we cannot say. It'll be the Gold End album is all we can call it. But we know it is the MPG album. You know, just these other things. It's not our word. But yes, there's so many different projects and so many different ways to do it. Like, look, let's take full advantage of Record Store Day, but have it be Record Store Day first. So you have these things so the fans can get it. But you're talking about the Flesh. Like, I know when Michael Howe was running the vault, he talked about that there was 10 different versions of You Got the Look, but they were just a little bit too similar. I'm like, dude, the fans, if it's 3 seconds, if he burps in one of the outtakes, they're going to want it. Yeah. There is a market for this stuff, for CD maxi singles, for vinyl, to put it out on streaming services, do these different projects. Prince didn't say he wanted the biggest sets. What Prince said is he wanted his section to be the biggest. We can do that. There's just different ways of doing it. And again, the Flesh is something that may be out there with bootlegs, you know, stuff that we're not supposed to have, but can be put out with different things. Trust me, different artwork, different stuff, limited edition. Take advantage of the Record Store Day concept, but make it Record Store Day first so the fans don't get screwed. They don't get it the day that a Record Store Day release is done. But you have that format. We can have it limited to 5,000, limited to 10,000 copies. And let's get this stuff out there. You know, you do have Warner's and Sony. It's two different labels. What I would like is you got to have the business model. And I feel when Primary Wave gets involved, you know, and helps out everyone, it could be done this way. I would like it to be to where the Prince estate makes so much money that instead of having a deal with Warner's and Sony's, they handle their own distribution.
Bring back MPG Records or Paisley Park Records.
Right. And I know people want the MPG Music Club. And what people don't understand is, and I lose people on this, you can say that there's two different record companies involved that own different times. And then in North America, there's stuff that is allowed and stuff that isn't overseas. You got Warner's and Sony, so it makes it hard. That's why you can't do it. When you throw the Netflix thing on top of that right now, that you can't have the visuals or live recordings, that's when I lose people. So you have 3 entities right now. The music club cannot happen right now. Everyone can do their discussions on it. It's a great idea for the future, for other things that we can do with streaming. But for the now, it's not going to happen as much as people want it. It's a talking point. That's a great talking point. I won't do it on my thing because I'll be frustrated with the fans, but hopefully in the future, we can get all this stuff. See, when he was handling his own distribution, even though he was having trouble with Warner Brothers, he would be able to get, surprisingly, he would need it, approval to do certain stuff, or Warner's wouldn't push back on him too much. But he was his own little thing. You didn't have Warner's, you didn't have Sony, and then Netflix on top of it. It makes things so convoluted that it would not be a successful venture right now. But when it comes to deluxe sets, would have that Martika Sessions or Originals 2, would like that separate and just get the meat and potatoes, as you were talking about, of a project. Even if that includes remixes, because again, we're finding out that Prince is coming up with these different ideas through the mixes that maybe you wouldn't have been able to do with a long 12-inch version of something. Sorry to go off on that.
Yeah, it's all good. Thank you very much for this fascinating discussion. I would love to talk to you again down the road.
Sure.
So maybe I'll give you a shout when the next Super Deluxe comes out. Make sure you, for the listeners and watchers, viewers, that's more the appropriate word, check out that sexy diamonds and pearls set that Jeremiah was just holding there. And if you are involved in some of the decision-making processes and you're watching this, just shut up and take our money. Just make sure it's all about the music and not anything else. So from me, Dan Whitell, from Jeremiah, we hope you have a great day. Make sure you stay funky, and we'll catch you down the line.
Keep it funky. Thank you for having me. Much love to everyone. Thank you, Prince.
Thank you, Prince. Indeed.